I think it's more than divestment as well. I think given the fact that the University of California is founded on colonialism, it's inherently a violent institution. There needs to be an addressment of U.S. imperialism and its ties to the UC system and how it perpetuates war and violence abroad, not only abroad but also here locally. We see this with the brutality, the police brutality that black and brown students face here at UCLA, Arab students, Muslim students, Palestinian students. And I myself have personally been like faced those violences that the UC has perpetuated and continues to perpetuate. It's not just a means of divestment; it's a divestment from Zionism. Uh,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah. Hold on a second, people. Cue it, because it's never been more appropriate in the history of humanity. Never before has this been more merited than right now.
What you've just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent
It's not playing.
response,
It's not playing.
anything that could be considered a
I
rational
gotta
thought.
start it again. I gotta start it again. Sorry.
What you just said
I'm an idiot.
is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Everyone in this room
is
now dumber
for having
listened
listened to it.
I award you no points.
I award you no points,
And may God have mercy
and may
on
God
your
have
soul.
mercy on your soul.
Okay, I'm just gonna take that out. You know, it's gonna happen. This whole stream is now gonna get copy claimed by the fine folks at NBC Universal. Good afternoon, everybody. This is I've been looking forward to this one for a very long time as well. Ever since we were all sitting there watching the Alex Jones kangaroo court show trial out of Texas. Norm Pattis, a man who for those of you who don't know, you have to know who Norm Pattis is. Norm Pattis is, we're going to get into the career, we're going to get into how he ended up representing Alex Jones, how he was not, whether or not he would make the same decision now if he knew what would happen to him as a result of him taking this up. I suspect he could have predicted it. The man who represented Alex Jones, the unrepresentable, the toxic, the evil, the man whose mean words are worth about a third what the Armenian victims of genocide were asking for by way of reparations in terms of damages caused by words. Norm Pattis represented Alex Jones. He represented, I think it's Joe Biggs of the January 6'ers, but there might be others. And we all met him in the context of that kangaroo court show trial where liability had already been adjudicated by way of default verdict. And Norm has now started doing the rounds on the Lawverse tube interweb thingy things. So that's what we're getting today. It's going to be amazing. What I want to do before we get going is make sure that we are live and alive everywhere. We are live on Rumble. I'm looking at it right now. Oh, I'm getting an ad for how to break through windshields of cars, which is ironic because I just cracked the windshield of our car trying to stick a kayak in it. I told you about this yesterday. So we're live on Rumble. We should be live on vivabarneslaw.locals.com. Let me make sure we're good here. And we're good. vivabarneslaw.locals.com. I put up a page earlier, or a post earlier, asking for everybody's questions for Norm. So what we might do, we're going to have a beautiful interview, and then I'm going to have an after party with locals. Maybe we might toggle that on to supporters only, and we're going to get to the questions from our locals community if they haven't already been gotten to, but I suspect they're going to got to because me asking a lot of questions. Norm, are you ready to come in, sir? He's looking good. Sir, you know what? I'll keep it wide. How goes the battle?
As the French say, it goes, right? You know.
And now everybody out there, we were trying to figure out some microphone issues at first. So he's using the native mic to the computer. So you might not have the beautiful Shure microphone, but content.
The dulcet tones that they're used to, right?
Yeah, and you won't get the ASMRs if we get really close to the mic. Norm, thank you for doing this. This is amazing. I've been looking forward to this for a long time. 30,000-foot overview. We're going to get into everything. Life history, how you ended up where you are, every question that I've ever had about representing Alex Jones in the environment that we live in. But who are you for those who may not know?
So I am, an old man now. I was born in 1955 in Chicago. amid unusual circumstances, an only child. My father was an illegal immigrant, snuck into the country from Crete across Windsor into Detroit, was an Oliver Twist type character, had his own street gang, lived by armed robbery for years. And in 1954, when he shot someone, ran off to Chicago with the young woman he was dating, who became my mom. So we settled into Chicago, and my dad disappeared one day when I was about 7. He never reappeared. I didn't meet him again until I was in my mid-40s. He told me he just couldn't cut the straight life, and he went off. He tried to return to the life of crime, but he had aged out. So he ended up settling in Virginia, married to a school psychologist at William and Mary. Lovely couple. They had no kids. I've been married a couple times, working on my second marriage now, which I've done my best to mess up, but my ever-loving wife has shown mercy to me, and I am blessed beyond measure in love. 3 kids. One is well, I don't want people to identify them, but one works in AI for a major institution. Another is an MD, PhD, and then I've got a housewife in the middle. 6 grandkids. I've been I taught moral and political philosophy at Columbia for a while, where I was an ABD in political theory. My unfinished dissertation topic was David Hume and the strategy of enlightenment. I wanted to know, since my childhood passion was to know God, and I didn't, I wanted to know how to live a good life in a godless universe. And David Hume, I thought, taught me that. But while I was at Columbia, I studied with Herbert Dean, one of the world's leading Augustan scholars, and had a stopover in Switzerland where I studied with Francis Schaeffer, an American fundamentalist. Taught college for a while, just hated it. No one in my family had graduated high school, much less college. And so I found myself at Columbia teaching, and, was a little intimidated. Left, went to do some journalism, wrote editorials for some of the oldest newspapers in the United States, telling other people how to think, as it were. Gravitated to the law, and have been doing it for 30 some years now. I've started in a firm that was nationally known for its advocacy of federal civil rights cases with John Williams, and have been involved in hundreds of cases involving police officers accused of violating people's constitutional rights. For the last 21 years, I've had my own firm, and I now have a junior partner as I transition to whatever the next phase in life is. We now specialize in criminal defense and First Amendment work. So in recent years, I've had Alex Jones's case. I've represented Joe Biggs of the Proud Boys leadership in an insurrection case in D.C. I'm getting ready to try another. I don't even know how many I've done now. Another murder case next week. So life is a journey, and I'm on it, as we all are.
Norm, if I'm book noting, or what are the bookmarking, a lot of stuff that you just said there. And first of all, you're representing Joe Biggs, and the reason why I was late on my thumbnail is because I didn't accidentally. I used Enrique Tarrio, and I said, nah, people are gonna. I was using a figure of January 6th, and I don't want anyone accusing me of like misrepresentation. So
I know Enrique well. He wouldn't be upset. He's a good guy.
Nah, but the internet never forgives. Even
no, I know it's true.
Okay, back this all the way up to your dad shooting someone. Holy hell! I did not know this. When you say he's an immigrant, illegal from Crete.
So, well, here's the truth. None of us really know the date of our birth. We take it as a given on trust from those who love us and tell us what they know about us. And we read public documents that are admissible, birth certificates and public records. But you weren't aware of your birth. I wasn't aware of mine. I take it as a given and on faith that I was born on the day I've been told I have, and my documents suggest it. I wasn't with my dad when he, with his father, snuck into Detroit from Windsor, Canada. They'd come over from Sfakia, Greece. I didn't know this about my father until I was probably in my mid-40s when I met him for the first time in 35 years. I was, as I always am, preparing for trial, and a voice came over the intercom, and my secretary said, "There's a woman on line 1. She claims to be your father's wife." And I'm like, this is interesting, So I pick up the phone, and hi, my name is, Jan Pattis. She's now deceased. "I'm your father's wife." And I said, "Well, before we go any farther, here are the 2 questions every white male wants to know. Tell me about heart disease and Alzheimer's."
She was not your mother. She was his wife.
Correct. Correct.
And your last name is Pattis. Was that your dad's
Yeah,
original last name?
Papanotis was the Greek derivation. Was the Greek term, and it got shortened to Pattis.
So Greek goes to Canada, sneaks into America from the Hudson border. That's wild already. If he's what year did he sneak in, or what year did he come in?
Sometime in the 30s. I don't really know. I mean, there are questions in my mind about how old he was when he died. He was either 74 or 84. He told me that he lied on his to his current wife, taking 10 years off his age because he didn't think she'd be interested in an older man. So, all I know is he smoked 3 packs a day for about 70 years and died a robust old age. So I'm hoping I got his genes.
And he left when you were 7, but he actually led a life of crime and actually did shoot someone. That wasn't humorous.
That's what he tells me. Again, put yourself in my position. You're 7 years old, and what you're doing is doing what 7-year-olds do: watching cartoons, playing with your train set, out in the park, getting as much time in the sunshine as you can, playing basketball with your buddies, and eating all that good food that mom puts on the table. And then one day dad doesn't come home, and there's no explanation for it. It was devastating and life-changing.
Okay, and now this is like one of the things which I don't often say, like, you can't understand until you're a parent. I think this might be one of those things that you can't understand until you experience it. When you have a kid and then you're the adult and you no longer live for yourself, and you say, like, if I disappear, if something happens and I'm leaving a 14, a 10, a 7-year-old kid, that's the biggest nightmare, is how they might respond to some tragedy that's beyond everybody's control. I have my kid's now going to be 8. I know it would be devastating. You don't know if he's dead or if he left, and as far as you know, it could have been either. But you're being told he just up and left and abandoned you at the age of 7.
Nobody really said anything. My mother had issues, and she. I was sent to live with relatives, and then we struggled for a number of years. I stayed with my grandparents for a while. Then my mother reappeared. We stayed with an aunt and her family for a year. We lived in an unheated attic in Detroit, which is cold in the winter and hot in the summer, for a year. Then we lived in a rooming house with a woman who was so terrified by crime she never left the house. We did that for a year. Then we got an apartment of our own. Then she met a man who came to live with us who was very hostile to me and me to him. And I probably have him to thank for whatever success I've enjoyed, because he made being home so uncomfortable. I took to the streets and found a way to survive by my own wits, and haven't done half bad.
And your mom, do you know of her origin story?
She is the child of a French-Canadian Quebecois lumberjack, and a former resident of a monastery, I believe a foundling who was placed in a monastery. It was hard. Life has been hard on our side of the family. And she didn't finish high school. Gorgeous woman. I have a couple pictures of her. One of her and my father, they look like something out of GQ, as you can tell, I didn't get their genes. It was, I was largely, I am proof of Hillary Clinton's line that it takes a village to raise a child, because I was the sort of pass around kid. People would, I knew where I could go for a meal on Tuesday nights. I knew what doors were open on Wednesday. I was involved in the Big Brothers program, and my big brother made me part of his family. And along the way, I've always enjoyed the care of strangers, if not the care of a family.
Okay, that's very interesting. I'll bring it back when we get to, you mentioned you're on your second marriage, whether or not that type of childhood makes living in a married situation more difficult. But in terms of trust or distrust in humankind, what you're describing, I would initially or reflexively think would lead people to distrust everybody. When the person who is supposed to love you the most and take care of you the most abandons you, how you can then trust anybody ever again. Did it make you fundamentally distrustful or more trustful of people at large?
I don't know. My lifestyle has been, my lifestyle has been turbulent. I'm not a guy that acquires lovers at a breakneck pace. I've been married once for 13 years and once for now 28 or 29 years. When I come to stay, as it were. I mean, I'm looking for a home. And so, I think that my first wife once said of me, you can't get him out of the house, but once you do, he's the life of the party. I have a strong homing instinct, and the woman in my life becomes my life.
Norm, what we're going to do now, I'm going to end this on YouTube and bring it over to Rumble exclusively. It changes nothing on our end, and everyone on YouTube, I will upload the entire interview afterwards, but you're going to get the non-live version if you're watching this tomorrow. And we're going to vote with our feet, vote with our eyeballs, and move on over to the free speech platform. So ending on YouTube, the link to Rumble is up there, and we're going to continue this conversation.